Welcome into another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. I am personally jacked up about this episode. We have a unique guest today and one in the nonprofit sector. We've had a couple of nonprofit guests on before, but this one, her name is Nicole, and she has a wildly different approach and outlook on how a nonprofit should operate. And guess what? It's what I always say about nonprofits and what we always say about nonprofits at What If. We have a soft spot for nonprofits, and we're going to dive in today. This is a very unique story, and I promise you, you will love it. But before we get there, Harmonious. What's Harmonious? Why are we here? Harmonious is the 10 fundamental disciplines every single business needs to master in order to thrive, scale, and grow and run an efficient business. And not mastering them or not acknowledging them is what causes chaos in your business and your life. We're here to fix that on this short episode. Enough about me, enough about What If and Harmonious. Let's bring on our guest, Nicole. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brandon.
Yeah,
Pleasure
I'm
to be here.
super excited for you to be here and share your story and what you're doing in the world. So let's start there. What are you doing in the world?
Well, Eden is a nonprofit, and what we like to say is we use everyday rent to change the world. And how we do that is really what we're trying to create is change the way people think about giving. So there's that traditional giving model that I think we're all familiar with. You know, someone's in need of water, you provide the glass of water, and then tomorrow, they're in need of water again. And so Eden approaches it a little bit different. What we are all about is, taking donations and doing the hard work of creating a well that is going to produce that life-giving water for years, generations to come. And for us, our goal is to help support anti-trafficking organizations, to really strengthen them in three different ways. So we have three pillars of what we do in order to help support these organizations. First, it's structural. So I think that really ties into, what you guys are all about at Harmonious. We really want them to be empowered with the same resources that you would find in a for-profit organization. And so, for instance, I mean, business consulting, marketing specialists, financial advisors, technical support, even those are often on the back burner for these organizations. And because of that, they're running these races, uh, limping along, trying to do the best that they can, but they don't have that structure. And another area that we found lacking in some of these organizations is just finances. I mean, monthly they're asking for $20 donations here and there, and in light of things like inflation, those donations drop. Their whole plan for that year. Oh, okay, repivot. We got to go somewhere else, and I mean, it's really not effective at doing the work that they were created to do. I mean, we're all gifted in different ways, and um, we want to allow them to focus on their mission, focus on the areas that they were meant to create. Uh, Lastly, what we do is we focus on just like personal fortitude. The workers that are in these organizations, oftentimes they're meeting people with dark stories, and oftentimes that can be weighing on the person that's trying to help bring them out of that. And they're not really sure how to process it. And there needs to be just ongoing, psychological, spiritual support for the workers, even to be able to stay there for the long haul. So what we try to do as an organization, we are not the boots on the ground, but we are there to support the boots on the ground, to assure that they're there next year and that they're not one of the statistics of these nonprofits that fall because, maybe there's a lack of financial management or a lack of donations or, just leadership that needs to be empowered there.
Yeah, I love how you're doing this. It's kind of I I hesitate to use this term, but I'll say it anyway. You can correct me. It's kind of like you're the middleman between for-profit companies and supporting nonprofits to help them enable them to continue on their mission without having to worry about the financial piece of it. And I think that's very important, and it's a fantastic role. But you said something that I don't I don't know if anyone's ever compared the stats back and forth between nonprofits and for-profits. You said typically for-profit companies focus on the strategy and the financial pieces. You'd be surprised. That's the unfortunate message. We run into so many people as consultants, as fractional COOs. So many people come to us because their finances are in disarray, their calendars are chaotic, they have no plan, they have no strategy, no vision, and running a nonprofit and a for-profit are really the same thing. It's just your
Mhm.
money goes in different places. So I absolutely love the approach you take to this. So then, looking backwards, how did you get to this place? Like, how did you come to realize this, there was a need in the marketplace for this and create this company? Because it's a very unique company and situation. So how did you come about it?
So I'm thinking I'm going to take you all the way back, and then I'll speed it up as we go. But for me, so just a little background on myself. You know, I have a background in business development. I work with a lot of small businesses, um, and I started having kids, and you know, you're going into the office, you're traveling all the time, and then your whole life changes, and you start thinking, oh, wait, this isn't really what I want to be about. I have these little people that need me, and um, it became like a catalyst for change. And honestly, when I started having my children, it was like a countdown. I was like, oh no, like literally I'm seeing them grow up before my eyes, and I'm spending, all this time in the office. I started reducing my travel. I started trying to like figure out ways to work more from home. But like my ultimate goal was I felt stuck and I needed to be able to stay home with my kids. And a lot of my girlfriends at the time, they were selling essential oils, which was awesome. But I was like, that is not equivalent to how much I make. Like I can't switch this. I mean, especially living in Southern California, it's a different world. Um, and so that is what got me into real estate investing. I like finally found something that I was like, wow, okay, this is like minimal time commitment, maximum return. And I mean, really, in terms of just like one step at a time, whole different channel of something that you're like learning, and I literally felt like I was jumping off a cliff into this and being like, well, if I don't change anything, nothing's gonna change. So I gotta go for it. And so really, it was like love for my kids that like made me jump off the cliff. Um, and thank God I did because doing so, I wouldn't realize, but years later, it was going to help us create what we're doing now with Eden. And so getting into real estate and realizing the power of it after just that first purchase, I mean, I was addicted. I was like, oh, I was telling my husband, we're going to pull out money from our 401k. We're going to just like keep doing this. This is like way better returns. Um, and I was like naturally talking about it to people. And I was like, I'm not selling you anything. Like literally, I'm just telling you, do it. Just like try one, um, because of the power of that like monthly cash flow. And so fast forward a few years, my husband and the two other founders of our organization all had the opportunity to go to Thailand, and they were, seeing trafficking firsthand and just a little bit, I mean, I don't want to say a little bit, like fully overwhelmed by the magnitude of it. And so coming back, my husband was just like, it was like on his mind. He was like, we got to do something. Like, I don't know what we're going to do. At the same time, our friends who had also gone were like, oh, like this is irking me. There was like, again, one of those moments where you're just like, I got to jump off a cliff into something that's going to make it a bigger impact than what we're doing right now. And granted, we were all already donating to anti-trafficking, but we realized like, hey, we gotta we gotta be able to amplify this. It's it's not going to make the impact that we want in our lifetimes unless we do something bigger. And so I was sitting listening to Diana Bautista, who is the founder of Share Love International, share her story, and it really captivated me personally. Um, Basically, She told a story about being in Thailand herself and seeing, this underage boy being trafficked. And in Thailand, this is illegal, even though Pattaya, Thailand is unfortunately known in circles as, you know, the number one sex trafficking region in the world. So she reports it, and then she goes home and she talks to her brother, and she's explaining, this whole situation with this underage boy and how she reported it, and how, she's not really sure that anything is going to come of her reporting it. And rather than just meeting her with like, oh, that's tough, he like challenges her, and he says, "You're a grown woman, you need to do something about this." And she's like, I mean, I did, I reported it, and she's sitting there going like, I mean, what else can I do? I'm like a hairstylist from, California. So, but when that seed is planted and somebody is calling you to something bigger, and they see something that like a lot of times we like live in this state of disempowerment, right? I mean, like that same feeling I felt when I was like trapped in the workplace, and I'm like, I'm a mom now. What do I do? It's 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 this thing that we meet all the time in business. I mean, it's like the next wall that's in front of you, and you make the decision. Are you going to like, are you going to get over that wall? Are you going to break through the wall? Are you going to just sit there and stay in the comfortable, and like ignore the elephant in the room? And so she ends up going, okay, I'm gonna jump in, using her skill as a hairstylist. She moves to Thailand, starts a school, and she's bringing people, she's inviting them out to learn a trade. Because in Thailand, it's a little bit different. It's very different than trafficking here in the United States. I mean, that you are talking, you either eat or or you die, and the way that you're going to eat is probably offering yourself just in service, right? And so, I mean, it's this again, this prison that they're finding themselves in, and she's bringing hope, and she's saying, here, like, learn this trade. There is another opportunity. You don't have to be stuck in that. And when I heard that story, I'm like sitting there in the seats bawling my eyes out, but not bawling my eyes out because there was no hope, but because I was realizing, like, hey, I am that grown woman. I need to do something. Like, what do I have to offer here? Um, and so all of us, all four of us, were like going through our own like little inner transformations at that time. And my husband, I remember I was sitting at the office, because at that time I was still working, 2 days from the office, and then home the rest of the time. And sitting in the parking lot, and he called me, and he was like, "What do you think? Like, can we do, what we do for ourselves? Can we make this work somehow for this organization?" And then it was like exciting, because we were no longer like feeling this overwhelm of like, this is bigger than we can tackle. It was like, oh, okay, how are we going to like make a difference in this? And we're talking with our friends, and all of us are real estate investors, and so that was really like natural for us to be excited about this. But what really got us excited was when we shared it with others. Everybody that gives wants their money to go farther. They want it to be a bigger impact. And so when they see, hey, there is a way that I can make like a legacy here, and not just this one-time donation, it's contagious. And so I hope that answered that question of where it started, how we got to where we are, and what's kind of like keeping us going.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a heartbreaking story too, and this is an unfortunate reality around the globe. And there are people like you who are helping the problem, and more people need to step up, of course. But I love that you have a proactive, sustainable solution, and I want to touch on that for a second too, because that's the most important part. Now, nothing I'm about to say is political. We're not taking sides here. It's just very relevant, excuse me, examples of how this plays out in the real world. So we always say to nonprofits when they come to us, they're like, we need help getting more donations, more fundraising. What are some fundraising ideas? And we say, you're asking the wrong questions. it's not fundraising ideas, it's revenue generation is the key. You have to
Hmm.
be a business, right? We've kind of touched on that in the beginning of this episode. So once we establish that little mind shift, then we can move forward and figure out the how. But the other part, a good way to illustrate this is two different ways. First and foremost, the Girl Scouts. That is the easiest example of a
Hmm.
nonprofit with a for-profit revenue stream. They sell cookies and they do it door to door with child labor. Love the Girl Scouts, but it's kind of funny that they have little girls going selling cookies door to door. And they make a ton of money for their cause and they're able to do great things in the world. And the other way that's maybe a little bit polarizing, but that you can think about this, especially in terms of real estate investing, is in Manhattan. If we take a look at President Trump, former President Trump, his name is on the building. He can make a lot of change. If you look at that as a nonprofit who's has a revenue generation stream like you, real estate investing, and then you look at the homeless man sitting outside with his hand out, which one is more likely to impact change in the world? It's probably the guy who owns the building, right? And that is unfortunately why most
Definitely.
nonprofits fail because they just have their hand out. And I absolutely love, you can see if you're listening or watching wherever you are, you can see why I'm jacked up about this because Nicole and Eden have obviously gotten this right. And I'm so excited to follow along your journey and this story. Um, so I know you've been doing this a little while. Tell us a little bit about the unique way that's different about how you actually proactively have revenue streams and how you're using real estate investing to impact and drive this change forward.
Sure. So what we do is we would take your donations. We would 100% of that donation would go to the purchase or the rehab of an actual property. And so our first property, for example, we purchased it outright. We are renting it out, and there's a portion of that money that gets held back in order to keep our organization running and to make sure, just in case a pipe breaks, the toilet seat, for a rental. That's something you would do as a real estate investor traditionally. You have these line items, but all of the profit then gets poured into these anti-trafficking organizations. And so our first purchase is supporting Sheer Love, that the organization I mentioned earlier. And then we actually purchased another property recently in Ohio that we are in the midst of rehabbing. And that is going to be our first property for supporting a local organization in the United States called Oasis House. And the exciting thing about that is, after that property is rented, you've got this ongoing monthly cash flow that is pouring into these organizations. And for example, Oasis House in the United States, we spoke with the leader there, and she mentioned, oh, I would love to bring a consultant in here because we have certain things that I know we could do better. But right now, it's really hard to get that passed through because it's not, a top priority for them. And yet, there's these leaks that are coming out where she knows that, if she had the resources, she could stop those leaks and they would be powerhouse, right? of doing more change. And so um, we gave her, a pre-donation before we even have this current house that we're raising the funds for up and running. And I remember seeing the light go on for her because she wanted to give us back that donation because she said, "Oh no, here I want this house to be quicker, done faster because in the long run, this is going to help support my organization." And for us, it comes out of two different buckets, so you can't mix them. But we realized, she saw the power that this is going to help her in the long run be able to do more of what they were created to do, more of their mission.
I absolutely love that, and you can see you've made the shift in her head, right? Between just collecting donations and fundraising to proactively making money and how a sustainable revenue stream could really drive impact in her organization. I absolutely love the change that you are driving in the nonprofit sector in this country, in sex trafficking, and in all these beautiful areas. I love this. I put Nicole's website on the screen. Can you just tell us a little bit about how people can get involved and support you and your organization and follow along?
Yeah. So I do want to just give an example of the creativity that we've seen in our donors. I mean, we also have a children's author, Pam Prouty, who uses a portion of her book sales. So as she grows, we grow as well. So I mean, it's not limited to just uh, donating in the traditional sense. I really want you guys to like break out of that. It's really through innovation that we grow. But if you go to our website, we are raising funds right now for this house in Ohio that is going to be helping to support Oasis House. And the faster we get that place rehabbed, the quicker it is going to be producing and creating that support. So if you would love to reach out to me, feel free to sign up online, and we'd love to talk more.
That's so cool. Yes, definitely go there. Check it out. If you're listening, it will be in the show notes. If you're watching, the website's on the screen. Will also be in the show notes. And Nicole, I can't wait to have you back for a follow-up because I'm just so excited to follow your journey and see how this can change the world of nonprofits. I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. Thank you for being here. And to tie this to the architecture, to the harmonious architecture, we talked about all of it. We talked about harmonious. That's the secret. Running a thriving business or nonprofit is about leveraging the 10 disciplines and making sure they are in the optimal state that they can be. So if you want to know where your business stands, get a little bit of clarity into your business, if you're watching or listening, go to, I'll put it on the screen here, whatif.com. You could take our free 8-minute assessment that will give you instant clarity into the state of your business in all 10 of those disciplines. And you'll get a 12-page report on the back end that will tell you where you are, what needs to change, and how to fix it, most importantly. So if you need help, if you want to grow your business, if you want to know how Nicole's doing this for her company, how she's done it for other companies in the past, and ultimately how to build the company that you want to build, start there. We'd love to have you. We'd love to help. And we love helping nonprofits too. So happy to bring Nicole on here, feature her story, get her word out. And hopefully we could do the same for you too. So wherever you are, make sure you subscribe. Nicole, thank you for being here. We'll see you next time on Harmonious at Lunch.
Thanks for